All right, let's get right into it. A brand new presidential order just dropped, and honestly, it's sending massive shockwaves through the worlds of tech, business, and immigration. We're talking about a move that could completely change how the United States attracts the best and brightest from around the globe. And what's at the very heart of this whole thing? Well, it all comes down to one staggering number.
$100,000. Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. This isn't a new line item in the federal budget. It's not a fine for doing something wrong. This is a fee.
That's right. President Trump's new order wants to make companies pay an extra $100,000 for just one H-1B visa. You know, the main way companies bring highly skilled foreign workers into the U.S. So this immediately sparks two huge questions that we are going to unpack right now. First, what exactly is this H-1B program that's being targeted? And second, and this is the big one, does the president actually have the legal power to just do this all on his own?
To really get the full picture here, we've got to start with the basics. So let's break it down. What is the H-1B visa?
So this program has been around since 1990. At its core, it's designed to let U.S. companies hire people from other countries for jobs that need very specialized knowledge. We're talking engineers, scientists, doctors. These aren't permanent green cards. The visas usually last for 3 years, with a possible extension up to 6. Now, when you hear H-1B, your mind probably jumps straight to Silicon Valley and the tech industry, and yeah, they definitely use a ton of them. But the program's reach is so much wider. It's become absolutely critical for all sorts of sectors, from finance and consulting to healthcare, universities, and even life-saving medical research.
So, just how many of these visas are up for grabs each year? Well, Congress sets a pretty firm cap. There's a general pool of 65,000 visas. And on top of that, there's an extra 20,000 specifically reserved for people who've earned a master's degree or higher from a U.S. university. So all in all, you're looking at 85,000 per year.
Now, to really grasp just how massive this new fee is, you have to look at what companies are paying right now. You know, between filing costs, fraud prevention fees, and if they want to pay extra to speed things up, the typical cost is already a few $1,000 per visa. So the leap here isn't from 0 to 100,000, it's from a few thousand to 100,000. That's a game changer.
Okay, with that background, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How exactly does this new order work? Let's break down what the proclamation actually says.
The proclamation itself, which came out on September 19th, is pretty straightforward. It slaps that $100,000 fee on top of all the existing costs. And get this, it also says a worker is barred from entering the U.S. until their employer pays up. Now, a couple of important details. This isn't retroactive. It doesn't affect people who already have an H-1B visa, and it doesn't apply to anyone who got their application in before September 21st.
And that brings us right to the heart of the storm. The order is out there, but business groups and immigrant advocates are already lining up to say it's flat out illegal. This is absolutely setting the stage for a major showdown in court.
The whole legal fight really boils down to one fundamental question. Does the President of the United States have the authority to create a brand new immigration fee of this size all by himself without any new law from Congress? The answer, well, it's pretty complicated.
Okay, so the legal battle is basically a classic tug-of-war between presidential authority and the power of Congress. On one side, the administration will argue the president has broad power to restrict entry to the country if it's deemed detrimental to the country's interests, a power that was famously upheld by the Supreme Court in the Trump v. Hawaii travel ban case. But on the other side, you've got the argument that Congress sets immigration law, and current law is pretty clear that visa fees are only supposed to cover the cost of running the program. So challengers are going to argue that a $100,000 fee has nothing to do with administrative costs. It's an attempt to make new policy, and that's something the president can't do alone.
So what will these lawsuits actually look like? Well, legal experts are expecting a few main lines of attack. First, the most direct one. The president just doesn't have the authority to do this, period. Second, they'll argue that the $100,000 number is so high that it's legally arbitrary and capricious. They'll also probably claim that the administration skipped proper procedures, like doing cost estimates or allowing the public to comment. And finally, the order is actually pretty vague on key details, like what happens when a worker just switches jobs, which all adds to the argument that it's a poorly thought-out policy.
So, with the battle lines clearly drawn, what can we expect to see in the coming weeks and months? What does the immediate future of this policy even look like?
The path forward is pretty easy to predict.
First, you can bet that lawsuits are going to be filed, and soon, likely by a big coalition of businesses and immigrant rights groups. Those cases will then land in federal court, where judges are going to have to weigh all those legal arguments we just talked about. And here's the key thing to watch for early on. A judge could issue a temporary injunction, which would basically press pause and block the fee from being collected while the case makes its way through the system.
And this massive fee isn't the only thing happening here. It's really important to know that the administration is also pushing for another huge change, this time to the H-1B lottery itself. Right now, so many people apply that the government uses a random lottery to pick who gets a visa. Well, the new proposal would get rid of that and instead give preference to applicants with the highest salary offers. The administration's argument is that this will stop companies from using the program to hire cheaper foreign labor instead of Americans.
So when you put it all together, a potentially crippling $100,000 fee, plus a lottery system that's being totally rewired to favor the highest paid, you just have to ask, is this the end of the H-1B program as we've known it for the past 30 years? And what would that really mean for American innovation and our place in the global race for talent? That's the billion-dollar question at the very center of this brewing legal and political storm.